Hello and good morning and good afternoon and good night for everyone who is from around the world. I know we have some people from Australia. Um, we have some people from the Philippines, Maldives, the bunch of people from Europe, Canada, USA. Most of you guys are from the UK. That is awesome. I just want to make sure that if you guys can hear me and if you can see my screen. All right, perfect. Perfect. Awesome. So we're gonna start in 2-3 minutes. I'm just waiting for a couple of people. They just messaged me that they're gonna be late, so I'm just gonna wait 2-3 minutes, and then we're gonna start with the show. Okay, awesome. So we're right on track. Everyone's here. There's some people who will join later, so so they can just join in. Again, so this will be recorded. It will be available in Ted's Vault. It's going to be available in all the mentors' drives, so you guys can contact them and they'll just copy things over. So this is the second installment of Science 2.0. The first one was very extensive. You had a lot of memes in it. And so this time around, I really tried to focus on the psychological aspect of trading mixed with some technicals as well, right? Because I think that is very, very, very important. Okay, so Science 2.0, I'm actually very excited for this content here. Okay, let's go forward. All right, so first thing when you come into trading is you have to realize what you are getting paid for, right? I read this somewhere. I don't remember who said this or where it was, but it just said that you get paid to wait. You're literally getting paid to wait. And if you look back in history, every great thing that has been done ever, they have been paid for waiting. Like it requires, maybe it's your patience, or your persistence, right? But you're waiting for a result. Like when you give exams, like you want the result the next day, but you have to wait. Same thing when you go to the gym, right? You work out, you want those biceps and those abs, you want to lose 10-20 pounds, but it will take a month or 2-3 months, right? So you get paid to wait. Literally, that's trading. There's nothing more than that. You're literally just waiting either for price to come to you, or you're waiting for your perfect setup, right? Either way, you're just waiting. You're waiting for that opportunity, right? So whoever is new, who's coming into the Forex family, my group, and who's going to get exposed to what we do here, there's going to be a lot of learning and unlearning that's going to be done, right? Because I know that some people, they come from backgrounds of like you've learned a lot of systems, you've maybe went through a lot of strategies, right? But you need to understand that that all those systems and strategies, they are built by people who have found them profitable over time, right? Because maybe they've back tested them, or maybe they've tried them 100 of different times, so it works for them, right? So what we're going to start off with is, I want to make sure that everyone who's coming in, right, I want you to unlearn everything that you have learned before, right? Because there's a psychological aspect to trading, and then when you take losses, that has a physiological shift in your mindset on how you perceive the market, right? So that's another thing that we're going to go over later on in the slides. But first and foremost, what really is Forex, right? Now, what really is Forex? There's a now there's a notion saying that, okay, you know what, Forex is a $5.3 trillion market. It's a huge platform where you can make money all the time and this and that. No, those are just dreams. Like, you know, those are just fantasies that are fed to people that, okay, like, you know what, if you want to profit in the market, this is what you need to do, right? And that just creates a whole dilemma of like, you know, things which you've never learned before, or things you haven't really done before, right? So that's what we're going to look at first, what really is Forex. The next thing, what we're going to look at is the prerequisites you need to trade, right? Like, what are the things that you would need to be successful as a trader? Is that going to be a good trading plan? Is that going to be a good strategy? Is that going to be a good, like, risk management? Like, I know guys who have really shitty win rates, but they're overall profitable because of good risk management. I know guys who are highly unprofitable because of bad risk management, right? So it all goes hand in hand. The next thing we're going to look at down the pipeline is going to be the psychology needed to trade, right? I think that people who really come from a like a lifestyle where you do repetitive things on a daily basis, they are the ones who are most profitable in trading. Reason being is that they are exposed to these repetitions of life. Like, let's say you have a 9 to 5, right? You wake up every day, you have breakfast, you go to your 9 to 5, you come home, and then you try to do the same thing over and over again. So trading, in retrospect, is no different at all, right? There are a lot of repetitions which happens every day, and as a trader, your job is just to sit back, wait, and wait, and wait some more for those things to happen again, right? So the next thing we're going to look at is trading the trend, right? This is very important. All this subject of trading the trend, it's all going to come into the technicals of trading and what you're looking for, or what you really are hunting for, right? Because now there are a lot of things which go against the trend. Like, let's say, you know, like there's this one thing which has been really big is EMA magnets, right? EMA magnets, though profitable, but it's generally trading against the trend. I don't really advise anyone to try to trade EMA magnets, because it's essentially you're calling tops and bottoms, right? And if you're calling tops and bottoms, there's a very, very high chance that the trend is going to continue and stop you out, and you're going to say, oh man, you know what? I can't trade. Because why? Because you're not trading the trend, right? If you're not trading the trend and your stop loss is getting hit, of course you can't trade. Like, it's just simple logic. So that's what we're going to focus more on as well, like trading the trend. At the end, just like any article we have, anything you write or you do, right? You know, like we go over that that what we learned, right? And what we can take back from it, or like what we can take it into the future and see like how we can make things better. And last but not least, we're going to have question and answer sessions. Oh, also there's going to be a IQ test as well at the very end. And this IQ test is going to be much, much easier than the first one we had in Signs 1.0. So let's continue. Prerequisites, psychology. Okay, whoever made this slide, they didn't do a good job. All right, so what is Forex? Forex is a $5.3 trillion a day market, right? This means that $5.3 trillion of volume is being traded every day in the Forex market. So does this mean that Forex is a 24/7 ATM, right? Does this mean that you can open up a chart and if you've learned support resistance, or if you've learned, let's say, Fibonacci's or wick fills or Gnarly patterns or Batman patterns, right? Does this mean that you can open up a chart at any day of the time and try to trade the market? No, that it does not mean like that, because you need to understand that like this market was made to fail for a retail trader, right? It's not like you can open up a chart and try to take trades and make money. No, because the reason why we say that you need to focus on the times to trade is because the market is going to do the same thing over and over again at the same time every day, right? The reason they say that it's a $5.3 trillion market over and over again is to entice people, right? That's to entice people to join Forex programs or to join brokerages. Because like I know some brokerages, they give out free analysis, right? And those analysis could mean that you can take a trade at any day of the time. No, that's just a ploy for a new trader to come in and see this huge magical opportunity and say that, okay, you know what, if I can dabble into the Forex market, I can make money. But what happens in reality, you end up losing a lot of fucking money. So if you're new to trading, I'm sure not everyone here is new here in the webinar. Like, you guys have some experience, but you need to realize is that you cannot just open up the charts and try to trade because, oh, hey, you know what, you can trade at any time of the day. No, it will never work like that, right? The market and the charts and the way charts are moving, it's basically a giant algorithm, right? It's a very complex giant algorithm, and just like any computer, just like any what's the word, just like any pattern, it's repetitive and it's systematic, right? What I mean by that is, like, just because the market, you guys must have heard this, that history will always repeat itself, right? It's very, very true in the market, because if you're looking at the market, let's say there are news events, like we did a back test of NFP, and what we found was that when price is going to move, right, when news is going to come, 70% of the time the price is going to retrace, right? What's that's called? That's called repetition. It happens, right? It just happens. But then it also has ratios that it's not going to happen. Like, you can't just say, oh, you know what, this guy told me that this one thing is going to happen over and over again, but it's not really happening. So what's going on over here, right? So it's not going to work like that. But you really have to understand that it's repetitive and it's systematic, right? And the way you can be profitable from the Forex market is to actually wait for that time to come where you've seen it move in a way which you're comfortable with, right? So it's a big algorithm, right? You cannot outsmart it. The only reason people fail or they lose money in Forex is when they try to fight the market, or when they try to attack the market, especially when they take a loss, right? After you take a loss, you cannot just go back and say, hey, you know what, I'm going to take the opposite trade and I'm going to profit from it. It's not going to work that way. The market is going to kick you in the nuts and hand your ass back to your hands. You know, it's not going to work that way. So when they say that, okay, the market is repetitive and it's systematic, right? So there has to be a way where you can set some ground rules, right? So if you set some ground rules, like let's say, okay, at 6 a.m., so such and such move happens for, let's say, 2 hours, right? And if you start watching that every day, automatically your brain is going to start to formulate rules around those moves, right? That's why we always say, like, you have to make some rules and you have to follow those rules, right? Let's suppose you have, let's take a fictional character like Forrest Gump, right? Let's say you have Forrest Gump and you tell Forrest Gump that, hey man, at 6 a.m., there's going to be a move, right? And all you have to do is just to trade that move like a robot. Forrest Gump is going to wake up and he will try to find an opportunity where he can ride that wave at 6 a.m. in the morning every day like a robot, right? But what happens as humans, we have emotions, like, we have emotions towards losses, towards pain, towards wins and happiness, right? So when we know in our head that we have to trade like a robot, and if that system fails, which of course it's gonna fail, right? Because no system is perfect, there are probabilities, So if that's when that system fails, that's when you start to realize that, oh, hey, like, what, maybe my system is really not profitable, or I may need to switch around some things, right, and try to make my system better. That's called outsmarting the market, which you just cannot do. You have to stay calm, you have to stay humble, right? Because Forex is here to stay, and if you follow your rules, which we will go over in the rest of the slides here in the next sections, you will realize how important your psychology and your technical analysis really is. All right, so we're going to go over some prerequisites to trade. I advise people who are new here to take some notes, to take some notes where I'm really going to go over how your lifestyle is, right? So based on that lifestyle, you'll be able to make a trading plan that will suit your availability to look at the charts, right? So the number one thing is, which you really need to understand about yourself, is that like what's your personality, right? What really makes your emotions move? Like, are you a competitive person? Are you very laid back? Are you risk averse? Do you like to take risks, right? Like, what's your personality like? I believe that people who are highly competitive, people who have been doing something very competitive over a long period of time, are the people who are really focused on things they do. They really are profitable in Forex. But on the same spectrum, if you have somebody like, okay, so I have a few guys in the groups, very accomplished people, right? Very accomplished. Like there's one master's, like this guy has a master's in computer sciences. I have a PhD major as well. And they apparently took a lot of time to be profitable in Forex. Why? Because when you have that tendency to overthink and overanalyze, that just creates self-doubt, right? Because when you're looking at something which will either go up or down, right, you start focusing on both outcomes. When you start focusing on both outcomes, that hinders your ability to make a decision, right? And that's what they call analysis paralysis, right? So you really need to know what your personality is like, right? Are you a patient person, or are you impatient, right? Do you like to take risks? Do you have drive, right? Or like, how do you want to trade? Do you want to take up trading as a hobby, or do you want to take up trading as a full-time gig? I'll tell you this right now. If any one of you who is thinking of taking up trading as a full-time gig by leaving a job, that's the worst decision you can make. I'm telling this right now. Because what happens is, like, when you say, okay, you know what, I'm winning on my demo account, and now what I'm going to do is I'm going to switch to live. I'm going to quit my job. I've saved up like 20,000, 15,000, or whatever the case may be, right? And you switch into trading as full time. Guess what happens? Now you have all this. Now you have all this pressure, all these responsibilities, right? You have to feed your family. You have to make sure you're making money every day. But what happens when you lose money that day, right? You think of it as, oh, you know what? We made no money today. So that's why it's very important that you need to treat trading as a hobby, right? You need to figure out what time will you have from your day that you can really put forward to trading, right? Now, let's say if you work at nights, right? You work at nights in North America. So if you're working at nights in North America, then maybe you only have time to trade pre-New York, right? Or you have time to trade the Asian Open, which is evening for North America, right? So you really need to make sure, do you really have time to trade? For example, what I really recommend people is to start trading as a hobby, right? When you start trading as a hobby, you don't have any emotions involved, because you know what, it's a hobby, and if this hobby works out for me, this can maybe supplement my primary income, right? So I really want you guys to write this down. Like, if you are supplementing your life with a job or with a business, continue to do that. Treat trading as a hobby. It's not an avenue to make you lots of, well, it's an avenue to make you lots of money, but it comes after the fact. Like, after you realize, hey, you know what, this hobby of mine is now bringing in $100 a week, or it's bringing in $200 a week, $300 a week. So maybe I can pay some bills off of this and whatnot. So there's something going over here in the chat. Okay. We'll let those guys do whatever they're doing. All right. So the next thing is, once you realize, okay, you know what, my personality is patient or impatient or whatever the case may be, but you really need to mold your you need to make some changes in your personality. That's what happened with me. Like, my personality was very driven. I was a very impatient person, right? Because everything I've done in my life, I've done it as like, okay, you know what, let's get it done. Let's jump into it, and we'll think about the consequences later on. And early when I started, it really affected my trading, right? So over time, I really had to mold my personality. I had to literally change the dynamics of the way I looked at things and the way I perceived things. So that's something which you need to do. You need to really change the way you look at life and charts, because I think all that goes hand in hand, right? Next, you pick a time that is most suitable for you to trade, right? That okay, you know what, this is time when I can really focus on charts, right? That's why they say that you need to treat trading as a part-time job, because guess what happens? Most entrepreneurs, most successful people, they have jobs, full-time jobs, and then they have these hobbies. And slowly those hobbies start to grow bigger and bigger, and they start supplementing. It's like what these MLM companies say, right? What do they say? They say, start this venture or start this new business and tell your 3 friends about it, and then slowly grow it, right? And once they say, okay, now it's big enough, you can replace it with your primary income. Right? You can replace it, but it takes time. It will take time, right? So that's the thing. Like, you just need to be willing to put in the time and just wait for these signs to come forward. You can say, okay, you know what? Now we can maybe switch our primary income with trading. So next is, why do you want to trade, right? That's when people come to me, I always ask them, like, why do you think you need to trade? Like, what's the reason? Most people say that, yeah, you know what, we want to make a lot of money. That's true. Like, that's why people trade, right? Or they say things like, oh, like, you know what, this is going to give me independence of time, or it's going to give me independence of like, let's say, your financial independence. Quite honestly, most people, what they say is that like, you know what, I'm a single parent, or or me and my spouse work, and we don't have time for our kids or my family, right? So if I trade, this will maybe give me time to spend more time with my family, right? So you really need to understand why you are coming into trading, right? When people say that, like, you know what, this is going to give me independence of time, perfect, that's fine and dandy. But when we really start trading, what happens is that we're constantly looking at charts, right? We're constantly opening up our MT4 and looking at charts to trade. Why? Right? If you're coming into trading saying that, hey, you know what, this is gonna give me more time with my family, but there's no time when you're looking at charts all the time, man. Like, where's that independence of time? Like, I know guys who say that, oh, like, you know what, my wife hates it when I'm always looking at charts. Why? Why? Because if you have a trading plan, and if you know that my trading time is from 6 to 9, there's no reason to look at charts anymore, man. Like, there's no reason at all, right? When your trading time is done, The rest of the time you should be using to focus on your kids or groceries or family time or fun time or business or whatever you do, right? But there has to be a balance, because everything goes hand in hand. If there's no balance, then you won't be able to trade, right? Because guess what happens, right? You start trading in the morning, you see some things, you make profit and whatnot, perfect, right? Then in the afternoon, fucking Joe in the group says, oh, hey, I'm in a shorts on something else, right? So you know it's not your time to trade, but you open up your phone because it's so convenient. It's right there. It's an app, right? You open up your charts and you start looking at the trade and you're like, okay, you know what? This looks like a good short. You take the short, you instantly regret that trade and you lose it. What happens? You lose all your confidence, right? And then you realize, oh, I maybe shouldn't have taken this trade, right? So why are you really trading, right? It will just take time. It's just the same thing as, why do you want a good body? To feel healthy, right? To do the things you want to do when you're in your 40s and 50s, you're healthy, right? So you really need to understand that. Why are you really looking to trade? Next is choosing a currency pair, right? We have some questions over here, probably. All right, so yeah, so there are no questions over here yet. Okay, perfect. So choosing a currency pair, right? This is one of the most important things of trading. Someone can, like, if you're a new trader and if you're looking to, like, you know, be very risk averse, be very cautious, I would recommend to choose something which is less volatile, something like USD/JPY. I would say USD/JPY is a great pair. USD CAD is also a great pair. There's less volatility, which means that it's gonna move less, but it moves clean, right? Now, every few months, there's always a shift in our groups. Every few months, I say for a good 4 or 5 months, everyone started to trade gold, because there were some people who were trading gold, and everyone saw that and they were like, okay, you know what, we will try to trade gold. And then and then after a few months, everyone jumped on USD/JPY because everyone was trying to trade USD/JPY. And in the last few months, everyone started to trade GBP/JPY, and we used to do a lot of webinars. So everyone said, hey, let's trade GBP/JPY now, you know. But what happens is that GBP/JPY it has a lot of volatility, right? So when you're a new trader and you're opening positions in something which is wild, just like Trump, you're overwhelmed because it's moving up and down so fast. You're confused. You don't know if it's going to go up or down, right? So choosing a currency pair, I'm going to go into a lot of detail in this in the coming slides, and it's really going to help you, like, you know, like which pair would suit your needs, or which pair is going to suit the time you want to trade. Okay, so next we're going to look at risk planning. Risk planning, I'm going to go in a lot of detail. Recently, I learned a new term called it's called dynamic risk, right? So there's static risk and there's dynamic risk. So we're going to go over risk a lot, because I think having a good risk plan is going to keep you in the game for a long amount of time. Like consider yourself fighting a heavyweight like Anthony Joshua or Muhammad Ali or Mike Tyson, right? So if you're a new boxer, you're going into the ring, you know that you will want to stay out of the ring maybe after you land one punch, right? So that's your risk plan, right? You're not going to stay in the ring until you get the shit beaten out of you. No, that's the bad risk plan. Your risk plan is to land 1 or 2 punches, or maybe try to land 1 or 2 punches and stay away till you see your next opportunity. That's how I see risk planning when it comes to trading. Let's look at the chat over here. All right, nothing important going on over there. So next, we're going to look at some technical planning, like how you look at charts, what you should be looking at charts, and how you should be planning your trades. It goes hand in hand with waiting, with the way you're perceiving things that are moving, right? And last but not least, taking action. How many of you guys